Hi everyone, welcome back, and today I'm going to wrap up my Next.js 14 tutorial series by showing you how to deploy your application online using two very popular hosting platforms, AWS Amplify and Vercel. So I'm going to start with AWS Amplify first because it's a little bit more difficult. It took me 2 days to do this. And then I'll jump to Vercel, which only took me like an hour. It was very simple, but let's jump into AWS Amplify first. Let's check out my screen. All right, so what you're seeing right here is my old to-do list application that I've upgraded since then. This to-do list is in my repository here. It's a very old to-do list application, but what I did was I upgraded this version to have authentication with a sign-in, and it also saves all of the items to the database. So if I were to do like item 1, right, item 2, so this right here isn't saved. It's saying right here I'm not signed in, so this will not be saved. But if I sign in to my application here, and this is on Amplify right here, you'll notice that it's live. So I can sign in through my GitHub. And then there you go. It signs in, it looks up the database. It says I'm signed in with my name, email, and then it grabbed my saved items from the database. So yeah, I'm going to show you how to deploy an application with authentication, database, and everything onto the web using AWS Amplify. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out of this, and then I'm going to go to my Amplify console right here, and I'm going to delete this project, redo it, and show you how to do it. All right, so what I want to show you first is that I'm running a regular Next.js 14 app that's running Supabase right here for the database. I have Next-Auth installed. These are the versions. Some of these other stuff is just, for the UI. Let's close this up, and I'll show you that this is just a regular Next.js 14 application. I put all my environment variables in here, environment local, and then I have the API auth, Next-Auth right here with the route. And you see Next-Auth, Supabase, and I'm using the process.env, and I'm calling my Next-Auth secrets and all the variables down here. You see I have all of them right here. So nothing special. And so once you have this running on your port 3000 by doing npm run dev, if that runs fine, then the next thing to do is to put this on your repo on GitHub. So I've uploaded my project to this repo right here, Next.js 14 to do app, and you can make it private if you want. You don't have to have it public. All of these hosting now, they can pick up on the private apps in here. What I use is I use GitHub Desktop to manage my GitHub. And you see I have a repository right here. Add your project, upload it, and it just puts it right into here, like very easily. So once you have it in here into your GitHub, I want you to go to Google and search AWS Amplify, and it will be the first one right here. No matter which one you go to, as long as you sign into the console here, I sign in using a root user, and let's do Kodakai here. Put in your password, sign in, and then you're going to come to this home console dashboard right here. And you're not going to have the AWS Amplify. You'll have to search for it in here, AWS Amplify. And you'll see right here, you add that to it. And then it's going to ask if you want to create a new app. So yeah, let's create a new app. And it's going to step you through the steps. Just go through the steps. It's very easily. Deploy your app through whatever right here. A lot of people use GitLab too, but I'm using GitHub. And then you'll have this little drop down right here, select repo, but you'll have to update your GitHub permissions if you don't have this drop down. See, it has all of my GitHub repos in here because I already authenticated with Amazon here. And so I'm going to grab my to-do app right here, and I'm going to keep all of this basic. I'm not making any changes. And then what I want to mention is that a lot of old tutorials, you have to put in these settings for the Linux 2023 to use Amplify. This version of Amplify currently that I'm using right now is using the Gen 2. This is their most updated, and they already have all these settings for you. It knows that you're using Next.js. I'm keeping everything basic. I'm going to do next. And then yeah, save and deploy. And so the thing I wanted to mention is that when I first ran this, it crashed a lot. So if your thing is stalling out and it's not going here right away like this, since I already built one, it's going through it really fast. But when I first did it, it took like 20 minutes. It took really long, and I had a blank page and it crashed a lot. So if it's taking longer than 5-10 minutes, go ahead and refresh your page, and then it will just pick up where it left off. But you see how it's starting to deploy this already? It's not going to work. I haven't set up my variables yet for the environment variables. So it's in this hosting right here where I have to set up my build settings and the environment variables, and then I'll step through the secrets and all this stuff. So yeah, this is the most important part of deploying, is the environment variables and the build settings. So I'm going to step through that right now, and then we're going to deploy this and we'll have it working. And if you want to look at the deploy status, you click on that and it's going to have this build right here where it's showing what it's deploying, how it's building it. You'll see all of the message in here. You can ignore the warning signs. The most important is to see the errors right here. See build error. So I knew that it was going to fail because it doesn't have my environment variables. So that's what we need to set up right now. And you have your navigation up here. Once you're in this deployment, I would just go back to the app right here, and then you go to hosting. So I'm going to show you right here, build settings. This is the initial build script that it's running, and you'll see that it's only doing an npm run build. It's not building any of our environment variables. We don't have our .env in here because inside of my repo here, remember when you're uploading to a repo, you don't want to have your .env file in here. It's private information. People can grab that. So yeah, let's go back here and add our environment variables. So you go to manage variables, and then you just add all of the variables. Now I wish they made this a little bit more easy where I can just copy all of my variables and just paste it in here, but you have to do it one by one. And I noticed that with Vercel, it's so easy. You copy everything, paste it in, and it adds it really quick. So I'm going to add my environment variables right now. We need all of these auth secrets, Next-Auth URLs and everything. So let me do that right now. All right, so I finished putting in all of my environment variables right here. But the thing I want to mention is this Next-Auth URL right here. You'll remember that while we're in development, this URL was http://localhost, right? :3000 like that. But we're no longer in development. We want to change this value now to our hosting for Amplify. And I'll show you where to get this URL right now because this is the one that it deployed. So if you go into this overview right here, you'll see that it says domain, and this is the URL right here. This is now our main URL to go to see the website. And you can put in your own .com URL too. It has the option to do that, but I'm just showing you how to deploy it right now. So now we want to go to this build settings right here, and we're going to edit this because we need to have it export our environment variables into the .env file. And how we do that is that we can give it commands like this: -echo next-auth secret equals $next-auth secret, end quotation, greater than signs, .env. And so I'm going to do this for all of the variables. Copy and paste, and then we will do Next-Auth URL. Let's do this for all of them. And right here, this is the end product. See how I put everything: Supabase, GitHub, ID, secrets, everything in here, and it's now exporting it into a .env file for it to use with the build. So now that we export this in here during the build, this file now exists on the build server. And that's all we really need to get this project to work. Just have to save it. And one last thing I want to mention right here is the secret, because I've been trying to have it export these secret keys using their secret variables down here. In the settings, you'll notice that Amplify has secrets right here where you can add your variable and values. I went ahead and did the secret keys in here, but it didn't work, and I've tried so many methods. I've noticed that if you just put your environment variables here in here, and during your build, when you echo it out, this is really doing the same thing that we had on our dev server right here where we have our environment file. So I didn't see a reason why they separate the secrets. And I see that this can work in the back end because they actually give you a little library to work with these secret keys. But during the build settings here, it's really just exporting this into an environment file. And I couldn't get it to work. I tried so many methods. But if you do want to look into it, I'll show you right here in the route. So in their documentation, they say to install AWS Amplify backend. So you do an npm install at aws-amplify/backend, and you import their secret function. And then you really need to just call secret like that, give a quotation, and then the variable name that you called it inside of the Amplify app. So inside of here, secrets, I would have to create a variable called Next-Auth secret, give it the value, and then it should pick that up inside of the library here when I call it this way. But it didn't seem to work for me. I did so many different builds, so I didn't use it, and I'm building it this way with the environment variables in here, and then I echo it out into an environment file, which seems fine for me. So this is how I got things to work. Let's go back to our project here, and now you want to build this. You just have to click on this field right here and then redeploy this version. So while I'm deploying this, there's another thing that I need to update, and it's inside of my GitHub, because in here, you remember, to get the authentication to work, you have to go to settings, you have to go to developer settings, and then OAuth apps and Next-Auth. And then in here with my Next-Auth app right here that I called it Next-Auth, the homepage URL is now this URL. And then this authorization callback URL right here, this is now that URL, but you have to call the GitHub callback. So it's /API/auth/callback/GitHub, because API auth, that is in right here, API auth, and then it goes to the callback and then GitHub. Update this application, and now this should allow me to do my auth. See, it's now deployed right here. So if I go here, click on the domain, it should now work, and here is my to-do app right here. But let's test this out. Let's go to sign in, and you see, now it's allowing me to do this. And since I updated my OAuth settings inside here for GitHub, I can now use this to sign in. And there you go. It works just like before. And yeah, I can do everything right here. I can delete it. See, if I sign out, and then if I sign back in using GitHub again, it saved my list. So that's how you deploy onto Amplify. And I also want to mention, if you want to download this code from my to-do list using Next.js 14, and it has authentication with Next-Auth, it uses Supabase, go ahead and join my Patreon right here, and you can download all of my codes actually from all of my tutorials. So I will include this code inside of my Patreon, and it will help support the channel by joining my Patreon as well. So thank you for everyone who's joined, and you know what, I will not be disappointed if you join the Patreon just to download all the codes and then you leave the next month. I don't mind. I won't have any hard feelings. All right, let's get back to this, and now we're going to set this up on Vercel. All right, so for the people who's jumping to this video on how to deploy to Vercel, I want to step through my project again here. I have my package.json right here. I have Supabase installed. I have Next-Auth for authentication. Let's close that up. So let's go up to my app auth, Next-Auth right here in the route. I have Next-Auth, Supabase, and then I'm using my process.environment file right here for accessing my secret keys, the GitHub IDs, GitHub secret, and all that other stuff. So all of my keys here are inside of my environment.local file right here. And then I took this whole project and I uploaded to my GitHub using GitHub Desktop right here. GitHub Desktop is a really simple application where you can create your repository, upload it, and it manages it for you. And here is my GitHub repository with my Next.js 14 to-do list app, and I uploaded it, making it private right here. So all of my code is in here, and you'll notice that when I go in here, it does not have my environment files in here. This thing has all the project files, but not the secret keys inside of the environment file. So that's important to notice. So let's go over to Vercel right here. Log in, and you'll be prompted with your overview. Inside of overview, I'm going to do a add new project. You'll notice I have some projects right here already, but I'll create a new one. And then you'll need to link up your GitHub. It will search your repository. See, I have mine right here. And then these are my repositories right here. You notice my Next.js 14 to-do list app. So I will import that. So I'm going to leave this project name the same. And then down here inside of environment files, we can add our keys. So what I like about Vercel here is that you can do a copy and paste in here, and it'll just put it all. So this is an example environment file right here. What you can do is go into your local environment file, copy everything like that, and then you just paste it into Vercel environment right here, and it'll just put it all in there for you. They made it so simple. Okay, I'm going to paste, and then look at that. It put it all in here for me. So what I want to go over right here is the Next-Auth URL. You'll notice that we're using localhost right here for the value. But once I deploy this application, it's going to give me my domain name for the Vercel. And and then I'm going to copy that and update this variable right here. That's the only thing I need to update. So let's deploy this right now. And there we go. It's deploying, and then it's showing the build right here, what it's doing. You know, we can expand that and we can just see exactly what it's doing. It's cloning everything. So yeah, I'll let this finish and then we'll get right back to it. All right, congratulations. You have deployed your app. And so you'll see that it's up right here. Here's a preview of it, but I want to update. Let's go to the dashboard. I need to update these settings. So once we're in the dashboard for the project here, you'll see up here are all the settings. So let's go to settings right here. And right here, we have our environment file settings right here. And yeah, you see it's all in here. So I just need to update this next URL. So let's get the domain name for that. So when you're in your project right here, this is not the URL, the deployment. Click on this right here, and then you'll see where it says domains. And you'll notice right here, when I click on it, see, it goes to the domain. So that's what we want to copy, that domain right here. So let's go back to our project settings right in here by clicking on that app. And then we want to go to settings and the environment variables right here. Now let's update our next URL environment variable right here. We say edit, and you see, very simple. And another thing is that you don't have to have it for preview or development if you know that you're only going to have this for production. So that was another thing. When you paste in all your environment variables, you can omit the other ones and just have it for production if you want. But I just left everything how it is. Save. And then one last thing after we updated that, remember we need our GitHub settings to also update for the authentication. So we're going to go to settings. I'm going to go down here to developer settings. OAuth apps, right in Next-Auth. And then if we go down here to homepage URL, we want to paste that in. Now this is using our Vercel homepage domain. And then the authorization callback URL, you remember that for GitHub, it goes to /API auth callback GitHub, right? So you need that for the end. Paste in the domain, and this is the callback URL for the authorization callback. So I'm going to update my application. And now this thing should work perfectly, so I'm going to refresh on this. No errors. Sign in. I sign in through GitHub, and there we go. It's working just how it is. This is now on Vercel right here. And so yeah, very simple how Vercel made it without doing any of the build settings that you saw in AWS Amplify. Okay, so to wrap this up, which plan would I go for, Amplify or Vercel? And for me personally, I think I would go with Vercel right here. Choose the Pro plan for $20 a month, and it covers a lot. The only thing that you have to look out for are the overage costs. Right here, if you go over this 1 terabyte, you have to pay 15 cents per gigabyte. And then if you go over 100 gigabyte right here, you have to pay 6 cents per gigabyte. So I think that's only once your application gets really popular and you're getting a lot of traffic. But you know, when you're starting out, a lot of the times you're not going to get that traffic. And then once you do, it will pay for itself. Like, you just have to monitor the traffic and then maybe upgrade to the higher plans. But I do believe that it's good to know both. I feel like you should learn how to deploy on Amplify here. And I'll show you right here with Amplify. While I'm doing testing, it's already costing me 43 cents. So it can get up there a little bit. I did kind of show that it was simple to deploy using Amplify, but for me, it took me a while to even get this going because I was trying to figure out the secret variables and how to echo out those variables. But once I got it, I understood it. And I think that's a good thing with learning AWS on Amazon, Amplify, and all the other deployments they have on Amazon, is that employers like that. They like to know the range that you can deploy things on. And they love hearing that you can even deploy on Amazon. Amazon is a big company. So this is very good to know. You should learn this. But for me, if I were to host something, I think I would go with the Pro plan on Vercel. Very simple, everything. And Vercel is the one who created NextJS. So any future updates, they will cover it and you'll be good with your hosting. So, you know, like, this is not a sponsorship through Vercel or anything. I do like them as a company. And so far, I am noticing that my site is running faster on Vercel with the same, you know, to-do list app. But right now, I'm not paying anything with the hobby plan, and I'm just putting all these websites out there. I'm connecting to my Supabase Same thing with Supabase too. You know, once you get a lot more traffic, you'll have to pay for that database. And right now, everything is just totally free for me while I'm hosting these. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I hope you love this tutorial series. I'm wrapping it up for this Next.js 14 app router tutorial series. Hopefully in the future, if they have anything else new, I'll add that in. But right now this completes it, and I am moving on to doing some more other tutorials. I think I'll cover AI coming up. Stay tuned for that. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and join my Patreon to download all the codes. Like I said before, you can get my full to-do list code with authentication, database, everything on it for a very low cost. So I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.